Day. I am Fe Katrina D.C. Ocampo from BF3B, and we are the Group 6, and we are here to present to you our chosen essay entitled Tremendous Trifle by G.K.Chesterton. Before that, here is a brief background of G.K. Chesterton. Who is Chesterton? He is Gilbert Keith Chesterton. He was born on May 29, 1874 in Kensington, London, England. He was an English writer, philosopher, lay theologian, and literary and art critic. He has been referred to as the Prince of Paradox. Now, let us listen to the essay Tremendous Trifle.
So once upon a time, there were two little boys who lived chiefly in the front garden because their villa was a model one. The front garden was about the same size as the dinner table. It consisted of 4 strips of gravel, a square of turf, with some mysterious pieces of cork standing up in the middle, and 1 flower bed with a row of red daisies. One morning, while they were at play in these romantic grounds, a passing individual, probably the milkman, leaned over the railing and engaged them in a philosophical conversation. The boys, whom we will call Paul and Peter, were at least sharply interested in his remarks, for the milkman did his duty in the state of life by offering them in the regulation manner and anything that they closed to ask for. And Paul closed with the offer with a businesslike abruptness, explaining that he had long wished to be a giant that he might stride across the continents and ocean and Niagara or the Himalayas in an afternoon dinner stroll. The milkman, producing a wand from his breast pocket, waved it in a hurried and perfunctory manner, and in an instant, the model villa with its front garden was like a tiny dollhouse at Paul's colossal feet. He went striding away with his head above the clouds to visit Niagara and the Himalayas. But when he came to the Himalayas, he found they were quite small and silly looking, like the little cork rockery in the garden. And when he found Niagara, it was no bigger than the top turn on in the bathroom. He wandered round that world for several minutes trying to find something really large and finding everything small, till in sheer boredom he lay down on the 4 or 5 ferries and fell asleep. Unfortunately, his head was just outside the hat of an intellectual backwoodsman, who came out of it at the moment with an axe in one hand and a book of Neo-Catholic philosophy in the other hand. The man looked at the book and then at the giant and then at the book again. And in the book it said, "It can be maintained that the evil of pride consists in being out of proportion to the universe." So the backwoodsman put down his book, took his axe, and working 8 hours a day for about a week, but the giant's head off, and there was an end of him. Such in the severe yet salutary history of Paul. But Peter made an exact opposite request. He said he had long wished to be a pygmy about half an inch of height, and of course he immediately became one. When the transformation was over, he found himself in the midst of an immense plain covered with a tall green jungle, and above which At intervals, rose strange trees, each with a head like the sun in symbolic pictures, which gigantic rays of silver and a huge heart of gold. Towards the middle of this fairy stood up a mountain of such romantic and impossible shape, yet of such stony height and dominance that it looked like some incident of the end of the world, and far away on the faint horizon he could see the line of another forest, taller and yet more mystical, of a terrible crimson color, like a forest on fire forever. He set out on his adventure across the colored plain, and he has not come to the end of it.
Chesterton was known for being the paradox king, and here is Tremendous Trifles as one of his work to prove that. The word tremendous combined with the word trifles was confusing, right? Because the word tremendous means big, and the word trifles means something or anything having a tiny value or unimportant. The story wants us to realize what is the true meaning behind unimportant or unnoticeable things and how they become extraordinary if you look closer into it. The story revolves how a single person sees the world as a giant who sees the beauty of everything as a speck of sand, or as a dwarf who only sees little of the things that surrounds him and sometimes get hurt when something big hit them. We should find the meaning and purpose of our life and understand why sometimes we are like in a giant position who can see everything, and why sometimes we are like a tiny insect who doesn't have power to see anything. The story wants to uncover the truth of the reality of everyday life, on how ordinary become extraordinary if we appreciate the beauty and magic behind it. We should be contented on what is in our hands and let the universe decide if we will receive more. Have you ever experienced dreaming to have something, and when you finally get it, the feeling of excitement will only last for a few minutes, and then the next day, the feeling was not that extreme anymore? This was the same with the experience of Peter and Paul. Paul wishes to become a giant, and when he became one, he got bored. Peter wishes to become a pygmy, and when he became one, he was surprised that having a size like that was not easy. If they stayed on what they really are, they will not experience such things like that. Being ordinary is something that doesn't make you unimportant. Being ordinary means you are contented in what you are having, and common things become magical if we appreciate and understand the story over it. And before he ended the story, Chesterton dropped some words to make us think what Tremendous Trifles is all about. And he said, "The world will never starve for want of wonders, but only for want of wonder." Meaning, wonderful things can be seen anywhere and everywhere, but people are having a total absence to realize, think, and wonder about it.
Upon reading Tremendous Trifles, I got a lot of moral lessons in my perspective that I can share. First is, we should appreciate everything, no matter how small and big it is. We should be like Peter, who wished to be a pygmy and appreciates everything he sees, even though he is small. Not like Paul, who wished to be a giant and did not appreciate Niagara and Himalayas and called it a silly-looking place just because everything he sees is small. Second moral lesson that I will share is, we should not belittle someone just because we are too high for them and they are too little for us. Remember, an insect can bite and hurt us. We should treat everyone equally and with kindness. Third is, adventures can find our meaning in our life. We won't be able to fulfill our meaning and purpose in life if we choose to stay at one place. We should be like Peter and Paul, who go to a place in which I'm sure that they got their purpose and meaning through their adventures. Lastly, everything is an attitude of mind. Simply, how we think is the reflection of our attitude. We should think carefully because it will be the reflection of us in other people. These are the moral lessons that I got in Tremendous Trifles that we can put into our mind to be a better person.
Travel. A loose aggregation of small water worm or fountain stone. Next is boredom. The states of feeling bored. Next is Paris. A large open area of grassland especially in the Mississippi River Valley. Backwoodsman, a person who lives in or is a native of the backwoods. The next is perfunctory, of an action or gesture carried out with a minimum of effort or reflection. The next is pygmy, any of the race of dwarfs described by ancient Greek authors. The next is salutary, favorable to or promoting health or healthful. Immense, extremely large or great, especially scale or degree. The next is dominance. Dominance is power and influence over others. Crimson, of a rich deep red color, inclining to purple. The next is subtlety, the quality of states of being subtle. Next is scarcely, only a very short time before. The next is palliating, relief of symptoms and suffering caused by cancer and other life-threatening. Palliation helps a patient feel more compatible and improves the quality of life, but does not cure the disease. The next is spectacles, another term for glasses. Exaggeration, a statement that represents something as better or worse than it really is.